Hi everybody, my name's Paul Murphy and I've got a passion for hats.
I've just heard from one of my regular customers who's already bought a few hats from me, and he's decided that he'd like an open road to be made for him. So these are the sort of American style hats that are halfway between a cowboy hat and a fedora, and they snap down at the brim here, and they have the Cattleman crease, and they're usually made of a pretty hefty material. Now this one's a beaver and a rabbit felt, and about a 240 gram weight, so a really nice sort of structure. So we've got a brown colour that the gentleman would like, which is this brown here, and I've already started to add shellac to it, because when it came it was like this from Fepsa. So on the one hand I buy hats that are already in a felt, ready to be made into a cowboy hat, stetson, or a style, or an open road, already with shellac and stiffening in it. But this time round, this is quite a difficult colour to get hold of, as it turns out. So Fepsa sent me over a couple, and they're very floppy. So what it means is I've got to go through the process of adding shellac. So what's shellac? Shellac is this sort of material that is being used traditionally in hat making for many years to stiffen the felt, and it's also used in cabinet making and that sort of thing. So you put the shellac flakes into isopropanol, which is an alcohol of sort of 98% or 99% alcohol, and it then dissolves, and you can probably see it's starting to dissolve in there now. And then what you do is you paint this onto this material and you build it up. I think it's at about 2 or 3 coats at the moment, and it will probably need about 6 coats, and it will become a really nice stiff felt then that I can put it on the block and start to work on getting the crown set before I cut the brim to size for the open road. So I'm going to get on with that, and I'll come back to you once I've sorted it out. But what I will say is that because it's alcohol and very smelly, always put on a face mask. So I should be putting on a face mask and building up the layers. So I've now got to a point where I've actually got the felt to quite a stiff level. Now it might mean that I do actually need to stiffen it a bit more once I've stretched it. I don't know yet until I've actually stretched it. So what I'm going to do is select the block, and this is a 58 centimetre block. What I always tend to do is, when I first get blocks, is and this one's from Boone and Lane, so it's going to be pretty down. Well, it is perfect. The 58 or 59 or whatever refers to the circumference of the actual block, and this one you go all the way around it, and true to size it says 58, and there I know I've got a good starting point. Well, what I'm going to do now is cover it in cling film, and that stops the steam from damaging the block. So I'm going to go and get that before I start putting the steam onto the crown and stretching it over the block. So there we are, one block already wraps up in ordinary household cling film. Now these blocks are quite high because they were made for my 1940s style hat. So when I do the Stetson open roads, I need to step them down by about 18 mil. So what I do, I cut a hole in a sheet of 18 mil ply and drop the block in there, and there we are, 18 mil off the block, ideal. So now I'm going to get on and start steaming the hat here and getting it over the block. So here we are, after a little while of stretching it onto the block. I've still got some ridges at the top, so I'm just going to put some steam on. pull it down. This is where you appreciate your size and weight, because these felts are really quite tough. Now you then do a bit of a seam at the top here. That's it. And there we go. That has stretched nicely over the top now. And what you've got to do now is get it down onto the block. And the way to do that is with a cord and a stretcher. So here's the cord. And there's the pusher downer. So I'll just get myself organised and we'll get on with that. So I'm softening up the felt with the steam, and then I'll ease it down with my body weight down the block. Quite a time consuming process this really, but it's going to take a while, so I'll carry on and I'll come back to when I've flattened down the edges. This is coming up a really gorgeous colour. It's really nice. It's a brown, but it's a superb brown. I have to say I'm glad I bought two of the felts, because you know I might have to make one for myself. Anyway, we're just trying to get this last bit down, and you know, on our videos we'll make it look easy, but it does take time, and it's not that easy to get it all down. You see, I've got a couple of creases here. Oh, you can't see, can you? Hang on. I've got a couple of creases down here which are proving a bit stubborn, so just taking my time with the steam and just steaming it, working it round, and it will eventually, yeah, you can see it's already having an effect on it, but this is like the first stage of doing it. So what I normally do now is just let that cool down, and then I'll come back and I'll give it a final press down, and then it'll be nice and flat. So here we are, we're at a point now where I've flattened over the brim and let it stand and cool down for quite a while. It's turning out to be a really lovely felt, this. I've then gone round the brim with the cutter. So this is a brim cutter. I've popped it underneath and whizzed it all round the hat. About 2.5 inches is what the gentleman wanted, because we've got a size 58 hat here, so it's a relatively small hat. So we've just reduced the brim slightly from a traditional stetson measurement. Now that's what comes off, so that will be used and recycled somewhere else. So now what I'm going to do is pounce it. Now this has come from the factory with what's known as a special pounce, so it doesn't need a lot. If it needed a lot, then I would start off with this 800 grit sandpaper and go on to this sort of 1500 grit pad. So I'm just going to run it around with a pad, and all you're doing is just helping the pile lay, to be honest. And it doesn't need a great deal. It's just, I just like to do it just to give it a bit of a freshen up. So I'll pounce that for excuse me, for a little while. As you can see, a lot of the fibres are coming off. So normally I'd wear a mask doing this, but obviously on camera I can't speak and wear a mask. So I'm going to come off camera and I'm going to carry on and do it. Once it's pounced, what we do then is take some tailoring chalk, and we're just going to mark the 4 quarters. So I don't know whether you can see, but on the block here we've got the quarters marked. What it does, it helps me work out where the centres are and the front and back. So just going to mark that up. This all comes out at a later stage. There we go. Right, that's done that. Now I can take off the lock from the felt. Let's see if this will come out nice and easy. Oh yeah, given that the there we are, the wrap is on there, it makes it a lot easier to take the felt off the the mould. So here we are. Already we've got some rigidity, and obviously when we start putting things like the sweatband in there and so on, the rigidity will be there. The gentleman's actually chosen a very nice dark brown sweatband with my logo inside. So we're going to size it now. So what we normally do there is take out the reed. Oh, this one's not got a reed in it, so I'll have to put a reed in it later. But I would remove the reed and then look at a hat and decide what's going to be the back and what's going to be the front. That's going to be the back, that'll be the front, and then what we do is we centre things up around the hat so that we can get a pretty good idea of where the sweatband's going to go and the logo. So okay, so what we're going to do is cut it about there. Okay, so now I'm going to use my trusty dressmaker's scissors to cut that across. There we are, all done. And then go back here, offer it up again. That's right. Now I'm going to measure 58 centimetres and then cut it. So what I normally do is measure just over 58 centimetres, offer it up in the hat and then cut it more precise to size. So now we're going to put the reed, which is this little thing, into here, which will give it the rigidity, stiffness and form for actually stitching it onto the hat. So we come through, so there's just a little bit poking out the other end. I'm just going to get some bits out. Okay. These are the little brass joints that I use, and most other hatters use as well. And we pop them on there. The end. See, them just popped on there. And then we just crimp them on with a pair of pliers. There we are. And then we feed them back in. Right, you can see that's in there. I'll come round to the other end and I'm going to cut that now and do the same again. So cut that, a little bit poking out, pop it on into the brass piece and thread it through, so then now go like that, and I'm just going to crimp that there as well. You can see that, but yeah, I'm just crimping that on. There we are. Now that being crimped on, it gives me a nice form to be able to drop into the hat. So let's just see if that will fit nicely. And it's just going in now. There we are. Absolutely perfect. That's just dropping in nicely around the edge there. And I'll offer it up to the camera in just 1 second so you can see what's going on. So, can you see that? It's all nicely put in there. So that's just placed in there so that I can see that the size is going to work, and yes, that size is going to work. So what I'm going to do now is take it out and I'm going to sew up the join on the sewing machine upstairs, and then I'll come and show you what's what. But we're going to put a nice bow on there and use the brown thread so it will look lovely. See you shortly. So here we are. I've actually sewn on the brim trim, which is the cross grain, and I've now stitched in the sweatband and removed the basting stitch. So all you can see now is the regular stitch around there that holds the actual sweatband in. So I'm going to give it a quick iron. So now I've got the hat at a point where I've got the sweatband in and the trim on, as I said earlier. I'm going to put it into the brim block and give it a bit of a excuse me, give it a bit of a press over to give it a bit of shape, and just see how it goes. So I might have to use another brim block rather than this one, but we'll start off with this one and see what happens. I'm just running around the outside first of all, and then on the other side there, and it is just giving it the steam. And then what you've got is you've got the actual gros grain. It just shrinks a little bit and brings it all in. So that's what's sort of happening here. No, I don't need to leave that for very long just to see how it's taken. But yeah, that's got a bit of shape to it. What I'm going to probably do is use a different block to give it a bit better shape than that. But this is just an early stage whilst I'm playing around with doing the brims and all the other bits and pieces of the outer. I've got to make the liner and the and put the gros grain on the crown tomorrow, and then put some shape into the actual hat itself, into the crown. That's the Cattleman Crease, that's what they call it. So there we are, that's coming along nicely. Yeah, you can see it's already starting to come together. Here's mine. It's got just a slightly higher turn up on the brim, because this brim's slightly wider than this one. So I'll see if I've got another block and give it a little bit more of a trim up. Now I've got to a point on this build where the hat is more or less structured and made, and we've got the leather sweatband in, and it's all stitched to the felt, the actual trim around the brim and also around the crown. I think you'd agree it's looking quite a nice hat. Well, very nice hat actually. I like the colour and everything. I've actually put an order in for some material. The gentleman wanted a maroon colour inside, and this has just turned up today. It's a sort of it comes across as a pinky colour on the screen, and it's not. It is more of a maroon colour, and it's absolutely stunning. So I'm going to now cut this to shape and get one of my liner logos, which are here. I get these all embroidered up for me locally, and I cut around a template and then sew this to the material. As you can see, that's going to be quite a nice contrast between the two, and with the brown from the hat, it should look really quite stunning. So I'll get that and I'll show you what it looks like when I've done it.
If you've got a passion for hats, keep watching the channel. Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye.